the gold chair, which will say.
This is Gateway City Sports.
It's a trap!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
This is the Team of Rivals podcast.
Everything you want to hear from the big sports to the big screen.
He's all by himself, fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No!
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
He doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
Time winding down. Michael for three.
Yes! She is gone!
I can't believe what I just saw!
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! You believe in miracles? Yes!
You may fire when ready.
What?
Good evening, Cubs and Cardinals fans. It's Thursday, July 28th. We are live. Welcome to the Team of Rivals podcast, proud members of the Gateway City Sports Network, where you can find great podcast and blog content. Follow us on social media, Team of Rivals Pod, or find us online at teamofrivalspodcast.com. For those of you who prefer to watch the show, well, like now, we also post to YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble, so hit the like and subscribe buttons and be sure that notifications are on so that you know anytime we post new content. Joining me for this week's show, co-founder of TOR and number 204 in the 2021 edition of the Top Cards on Twitter, Ron Nuttall, and permanent occasional guest host, Elliot Dewey. Guys, we got to jump right into it. Look, this is 4 weeks old, but we dropped the ball, and we should be ashamed of ourselves. We didn't celebrate Bobby Bonilla Day.
Shit. We didn't even bring it up.
We didn't even bring it up. July 1st, and we missed it completely. We almost made it out of the
every
whole month.
year we do.
Every year.
Every year.
I might have retweeted something perhaps, but that was the extent of it, and I wasn't even thinking about getting it in on this show. That's a shame.
How do we miss a $1.2 million payment?
Hey, the good news is
next, what is it, 10 years?
No, the good news is we got 13 years left of this. So we vow not to miss.
Apparently, there's another one that was negotiated when he was traded to the O's. So he's getting another $500,000 from the O's on July 1st.
I wonder if he's getting anything from the Cardinals. That was his last stop.
Why not?
That would be
hilarious.
I hope
so.
Yeah, I do too. I'm with you, Elliot.
I'm probably sure they got a compensatory pick for that, though, too.
Probably.
Are we still doing that, guys? Come on.
Every time, Ron. Every time until the end of time, the Cardinals will get a compensatory pick.
Well, they should. They're a mid-market team. You got it. What do you want?
You can fuck right off with that shit.
How many of those have you had? You came in here hot. He's usually not like this out of the gate.
I think Elliot's hot because he shares the greatest fear of all Cubs fans, which I assume, Ron, you don't think is going to happen, and that is that somehow Mo and Gersh are going to push all in, and they're going to acquire Juan Soto.
Juan Soto. Yep. It's a bunch of horse shit.
I'm telling you, I'm going to say it right now. I think, Ron, you're going to agree with me. I don't think it happens. This is not Mo and Gersh's. This is not their MO. They don't make trades. They don't make huge blockbusters like this in season. If you look at it, the trade for Goldschmidt was made in what? It was in December, and the trade for Arenado was made in February. They don't make in-season trades. Not big blockbusters.
Well, the thing is, they used to. I was talking to my son a little about. He's already crossed. He's already at the point of no return on this Soto thing. He said he had woke up 3 times in the middle of the night last night. Had a dream that John Heyman tweeted out that Soto was traded to the Cardinals. I told him not to set himself up for disappointment like this, but he is going to. I don't know what Elliot is watching in the background, but it sounds fascinating. Or is that family I hear?
No, that is my parents, because they can't hear each other talking, having a loud discussion 4 feet from each other.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like It sounds like a amicable discussion, and it's not like there's an argument going on, so that's good. So I was talking to my son about this, and they used to do both, Pete. Going all the way back, I won't go back that far. I'll go to 1998. McGuire was a deadline deal. Fast forward a bit. Well, there was others that were made. I think Scott Rowland was a deadline deal. Larry Walker was brought in maybe post deadline when that waiver. He passed the waiver wires. I believe he was. I could be remembering this wrong. I think he came over in August. Go a little bit farther in time, a few years down the road. Matt Holliday was a deadline deal as well. So. And then they used to make deals in the offseason. It was kind of flipped a little bit on them, right? Their formula was trade for a guy, even if it's an all-star caliber player, get him in for a few months. They know they're going into their walk year, but for the most part, they were able at one point in time to convince those guys to stay, which is part of the calculation. Probably part of the logic of getting them here in the first place, right? Especially if they were a coast guy. They traded for Edmonds in the offseason. I mean, so they used to do both, Pete. I guess is my point. And they exclusively do this stuff in the off season. I guess when they have more time to think it through or calculate it, not sure. But yeah, the deadline deals is trying to just do the inventory in my head real quick. There's been no big splashy moves for several years. It's been a very long time since they brought in anybody of any significance at the deadline. I don't count Brandon Moss in my calculus. Not moves like that. I don't really count Lester Happ. That was a emergency need for a couple of arms. I mean, there's been no you're right. It's all been in the offseason. That's the new Cardinals. And it's been that way since probably, if you look at it, really 2011 is the last time they made a major deadline move. And it wasn't for any big names. It was for a bunch of pieces for the bullpen and some extra arms. And the big name, I guess, they got rid of at the time was Colby Rasmus. Maybe not big around the league, but he was a top prospect at St. Louis. Just not doing so hot. By not doing so hot, Tony La Russa didn't like him at all because he was dangerously stupid. Doesn't mix well with the younger version of TLR. So I don't have high hopes for this. My son does. I don't. I've seen this movie before, and I don't want to I should throw spoiler alert on this. The Cardinals' last big name that they didn't pull off, I guess, that they thought they were going to trade for would have been Giancarlo Stanton, who declined, who said no. That was the last time I let myself get hooked into something like that. That really wasn't anything on the Cardinals, although they may have been calculating he would have said no anyway. To appease people, but I don't think so. I think they were willing to open up the checkbook on him, but they didn't. They weren't able to. So the most we're going to see here is probably, their biggest need right now is shit. You can probably make an argument both ways, but their glaring need right now is definitely on the pitching staff. With Flaherty being out, not really know when he's going to return. Steven Matz is now out mid-September, the best possible scenario that he's back. They're down arms, right? When you're counting on 40-year-old Adam Wainwright to be your ace, something's wrong somewhere, right? He should be a 3 or 4 guy at best. So it's not looking good. They need pitching, and I believe at the end of the day, if they make any moves at all, it's going to be for pitching. And it probably won't be a big name either.
I have to agree. I mean, we've talked about this before, and we know it, especially in the postseason. Good pitching shuts down good hitting.
Yeah.
So you can have a stacked lineup, but it's not going to continue to put up the numbers. You're not going to be able to bludgeon people to the World Series. It just doesn't happen that way.
No.
And I agree with you. And I saw it firsthand, right? At the beginning of the month, Cardinals need pitching. They need starters, and they probably could use a reliever as well, just to take some pressure off that bullpen.
No, when we've been doing the show, I think I've been saying it every other week. It seems like we've been able to do this, but I've been saying the same thing for a while. It's been pitching, same problem last year.
And you have a limited number of prospects that you can trade. And you guys aren't in the position where the Yankees theoretically are right now. Mm-hmm. You're not one move away from winning World Series.
Yeah.
So do you really push all in and throw away all the, and Ron, you've warned about it again and again. Don't fall in love with prospects because they haven't proven anything to you. But do you throw away all these prospects? You're going to hit on at least one of them.
Sure. I mean,
do you trade all of them away for Juan Soto and it doesn't get you the World Series?
Well, there's a couple things that could be playing into the minds right now, right? So yeah, I think you're right. Like you can't, the Cardinals do have a pretty good system right now. It's been in better shape than it has in years. They've got a lot of promise. Let's just say that. And that's all I consider it is promising. These guys are, they're gambling chips, right? You really don't know what you've got. And so, what you don't want to do is probably dump off the top 4, top 5, or 3 of your top 5, 4 of your top 5. feels like just not a very wise thing to do. And I get the argument that, hey, Soto is a generational talent. He's only 23 years old. You do have 2 more years of control beyond this. So that does cause, I think, probably everybody to pause, because that's not a situation that, you know, anybody runs into anytime soon. The Nats have maybe a little bit more urgency than what people think, because, you know, they're trying to sell that team. They probably want that whole situation buttoned up. So, you know, maybe there is a little bit more urgency on their part. But I don't know if they get as much for him, dealing him right now with that sense of urgency, or if they're going to take it into the offseason and really, you know, see what somebody's willing to part with in the offseason. I don't know. The only thing I can think of why they'd be in a rush now is simply because of, you know, that team being up for sale. So, don't know. But with that said, whether the Cardinals were ever in this conversation for Soto or not really doesn't matter to me a whole lot. But what matters to me, what's probably going to piss me off more than anything, is just San Diego being in this conversation, regardless, right? I mean,
they don't freaking deserve to be in this conversation.
What business do they have doing this shit? What, they go out and they sign Hosmer, a big-time free agent. They sign Machado. They've made all these deals. And we see this from them all the time. Every 7 or 8 years, they jump into the fray. Everybody thinks that the Dodgers are finally going down. San Diego ends up never winning the division because they can't put it all together, or they have injuries. And here they are once again talking about the biggest name last year was available was Machado, I think, without a question, right? And now here they are again. They're going to get the second best guy that was ever available, one of the best players in the league. They're going to jump in on that too. You know what's going to happen if they get Soto? Pete, you know what my prediction is? They're still not going to win a goddamn World Series. The Dodgers are still going to take them out. And so they are a better version. They're a better version than the Angels. Well, no, they're a better version than the Angels. The Angels really fuck this up every time they try to purchase their way in. I mean, they're the shittiest gambler at the table, continuing to buy themselves in the game. Then they're fucking knocked out first round every time, right? So,
well, speaking of the Angels and generational talents, John Heyman just tweeted that the Angels are listening on everybody, and for the first time, that includes Ohtani.
I saw that too today. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, just tweeted him.
Do you think that has anything to do with Mike Trout's back being hurt and chronic?
Could be.
Well, no, I think if the Angels,
they want your top 4 prospects.
Whatever, fuck them. You know, no. Are they finally like waking up and realizing that whatever we've tried to do here over the last 10 to 12 years, 20 years, hasn't worked? Like, we cannot throw money at everything and expect to fix our organization or our major league roster overnight. They've wasted the best player on the planet over the last 10 years by just sucking, by being unable to put together a complete team. That's the difference between some GMs get lucky, Pete, and it happens. They have some talent come up from the system that contributes in a way they didn't anticipate, or I think a little bit luck, but the good GMs can put a whole roster together for the entire run or know exactly what they need at the end to make it work. These dumbasses have tried to just throw money wildly out, drunk and disorderly with the checkbook, throwing money around every offseason. And here they are again. They're going to ask 4 or 5 prospects for Ohtani. So go ahead. I mean, what, San Diego want to be in this fucking conversation too, because they seem to be in everything else. What are they doing? Why are they here? What are you doing here at this party? You weren't fucking invited, Padres. Nobody invited you. And here you are. Again.
They're here to make you upset, Ron. That is the only reason they are here.
So those Rule 5 picks a few years ago, man. Somehow I said that didn't bother me, and it still pisses me off to this day. But seriously, why are they in this conversation again? Why can you not win with Hosmer, with Tatis? Yeah, I know he's been injured. With Machado, like what? Why can you? Do you need another core? How many fucking core pieces do you need? Do you need all 9 of them to be core players? All 9 starters? Oh, they're all core all-stars. It's the only way they're going to win. You know why? Because your uniforms are ugly, and they've always been ugly, and they'll continue to be ugly, and you're still going to finish no higher than 2nd, likely 3rd, because the Dodgers are going to continue to kick their ass. I am a Dodgers fan if this deal happens.
Oh, that's gross.
You shut your mouth.
I guess I don't put it past you because you are a Cardinals fan, so.
That's nothing for me to be pissed off at the Dodgers about, really. It really isn't. I mean, They're a big market team that, yes, they spend money. Yes, they make some crazy trades once in a while. But you know what? They put together
you know what?
a division-winning team
baseball
every
player year. Or any baseball fan who gets pissed because the Dodgers and the Yankees spend money. If their team spent money like that, they would be putting their middle finger in the face of everybody else and saying, fuck you, your team sucks. Your team should spend money too.
Yeah. Yankees have been better at it, but I tell you what, they had their stretch there where they were. When
they were bad at it.
When they threw all of it in a couple of times, it did work for them. I'll give them that. Pete, what's on your mind? What are you reading?
Oh, I'm just flipping through all the stuff. We've got our second trade of the season. Looks like a minor deal between the Reds and the Mets. But you had mentioned the Yankees, and obviously they've opened trade season, but it's been quiet since then. And my fear is that we're going to get a mad rush right at the end on Tuesday because everybody's waiting to see what happens with Soto.
Yeah, and seeing how serious this Ohtani thing is, or the Angels just being the Angels and wanting to somehow get into the news because they can't get into it any other way.
Yeah, when you have like the two of the best players and
one's got a rare
baseball.
back condition or something like that, so he.
Yeah,
and I tell you, I gotta recommend.
That's so disappointing too.
Yeah, well,
I'd also recommend. I mean, normally I wouldn't recommend anything this guy does, but Jim Bowden actually had a pretty good article today about what it's like being a GM during the trade deadline, and how far in advance you are working to set up trades, but then also how different it can be because depending on how involved your owner is, for example, Artie Moreno, you might not be able to pull off a deal because ownership just simply won't sign off on it. And the one that he mentioned was one that you referenced earlier on. Apparently, when he was with the Reds, he had a deal set up with the Phillies to deal for Scott Rowland, and ownership wouldn't approve it. And he worked at it for like 2 days, and then he got traded to the Cardinals. Similarly, he had a deal set up with I forget who it was, but one of the Reds pitchers at the time. And
while he was with the Reds, had a deal to get Scott Rowland traded to the Reds.
He was the GM at the Reds. He had a deal to ship off one of the Reds pitchers, but Marge Schott was a friend of the pitcher's wife and wouldn't approve the deal because she didn't want her to go.
Oh my God.
Marge Schott.
Sounds like something the Bears would do.
Smoke like a forest fire.
That's not ownership you don't want.
No.
Wow.
No, I don't want one that involved.
So, Ron, what do you think for the Cardinals? Is this just going to be is this deadline going to be all about pitching?
Yeah, probably. If I had to put my money on it, that's the square I'm putting it on. It's going to be. They really need a starter. They just need depth anywhere they can get it. Some of these young guys they're probably just. And I can understand the reluctance to bring them up right now, right? I mean, they need a starter, and it doesn't have to be a 1 or 2 guy. It can be a 3 or 4. It can be a 5. It can be from the surplus somebody like Houston has right now. They've got like 6 starters they're shopping around right now, right? Because they need help at catching, for instance, right? Which could be a destination for your catcher, but we can talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be exactly what I said. They really do need a starter. Two would be fantastic, innings eaters. But those are valuable to everybody, so it's not going to be free. They're going to have to give up a little bit for it, and I likely you're to see the typical bullpen move. There might be 1 arm or 2 arms, or maybe somebody that's picked up off. It's been DFA'd, some other acquisition. So, my money is 2 to 3 arms will be brought in. Soto's jersey will not be for sale in the St. Louis team store anytime soon, guys, or ever.
Speaking of which, and acquiring a pitcher. Major League Network has already started throwing trade hypotheticals up. Would you make this deal, Ron? The Cardinals get Ohtani, addresses your need for a pitcher, and the Angels get Liberatore, Gorman, Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn, and Josh Baez
for Ohtani.
I
know that there are people out there that hey, because he's got the gold shiny card in the Topps pack or whatever trading cards are sold nowadays that I don't understand. I know he's on the front of video games, and usually when there's an article about baseball or just the Angels itself, and not Mike Trout who've done it for 12 years, it's going to be Ohtani's face, right? So anybody who's not close to this is going to say, yes, that's a Soto example. It's a generational thing. You've got to go do it now. A chance to bring a player like this in. Let's look, the list you just read off, Pete. Like, is he going to jettison the team production in 2 years higher than all those guys you just mentioned combined? Not all those guys are going to work out, by the way. There's going to be some disappointment in there. Maybe one of those players can be dealt for something else, but that to me is too steep a price. That sets you back to where now you're rebuilding farm club again. The Cardinals this year went into they drafted pitchers this year, college pitchers, what they used to do. They went back to it because a couple years now in a row they've had issues with pitching, right? So they went back to drafting college-ready pitchers or college-age pitchers. You're going to give up all those position prospects you just mentioned, Liebertor being the exception. You're going to give all those position players up that you're probably going to need to count on in the years to come. Because I think O'Neill, I think it might be his last year. It's likely to be. Who's going to play left field at this point? Is Bader going to be back? He's got plantar fasciitis in his foot. But, Bader, yes, excellent defender. I still think he sucks with the bat. So is that your outfield? Is he going to be your center fielder for the next 5 or 6 years? There's questions that'll pop up here pretty soon. Goldschmidt's only got a couple years after this left on his contract. So that's a Jordan Walker position potentially. Jordan Walker's other position is third base. I don't think anybody's playing third base anytime soon unless Arenado gets upset enough with the progress or the lack of help that the front office seems willing to do midseason and he opts out of that contract. It is an option for him. Doubtful because I don't think he's going to get that money anywhere else. But now, I wouldn't I wouldn't make that trade. Here's the other reason I would. I think it's a little too much to give up, and I'm not one that's gets overexcited about prospects. You know that. But what are the chances realistically that you think you can keep a guy like that in St. Louis once he hits free agency? And I think it's low. I really do. This guy's from Japan. He chose the West Coast probably for a reason, right? Time zone difference, access to the family is just a little bit closer. It's the Midwest, and if you've only traveled there for road trips, what's your incentive to go into the middle of the continental U.S.? Really, what is it? Especially when you're not from here. It's the coast. Those are the attractive places. Let's face it. Just be honest about it. Those are the attractive locations you would think, right? So I think the chances of retaining somebody like that long term, if you are willing to make that deal and part with a lot of your, farm system, I think you got to have some kind of high confidence level that you can retain that guy. And I don't think in either case I'd be too confident that they'll retain him.
All right. So
I think for something like that you would rather trade for somebody like Soto than Ohtani. I know your need is pitching, which you could probably get for cheaper than giving away most of your prospects. I mean, yeah, Ohtani's a great pitcher, but as we've seen, he has been bitten by the injury bug the last few years. Yeah, at least once a year. So, I mean, there are some guys out there that would definitely upgrade the Cardinals that even if it's just a rental, you don't have to get rid of some of those top prospects. Maybe you trade some of those middle of the road guys. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got guys like, Wade Miley available with the Cubs, who the Cubs wouldn't care about trading, interdivision because I think he maybe has 1 year left on his contract. He's about to make a rehab start. I mean, the guy has proven himself as a decent pitcher. So, I mean, there are some arms out there, and if the Boston Red Sox start dealing everybody like they're expected to, you should be able to pick up somebody for your rotation that is going to be serviceable that you don't have to give away the farm for.
And I think that's the more likely scenario. That's the immediate need right now. Even with Soto's bat there, what are you going to do about pitching? It's very thin.
Right. And as Greg Yacke has commented on Facebook, he's like, just imagine that lineup with Soto in there with, Goldschmidt with Arenado. I mean, that really bolsters your lineup. And then it changes the way the pitchers pitches to those guys.
Yeah, it can. I don't think either
Elliot,
player
do
is
you
going to
see
end up in
any
St.
way
Louis.
that the Cubs try to put together a package to land either of them? I mean, if they're available, are you picking up the phone?
They should. I mean, every team should be picking up the phone. Every team should be talking to the Nationals right now, talking about who they would trade or whatever to get. I mean, he's 23. The guy has proven himself to be a great player, and he hasn't shown anything that says that his play is going to decline anytime soon.
No,
I mean his on base percentage is only matched at his age by some of the greatest players that baseball has ever seen.
Well, every team, I agree. Every team probably checked in to say, hey, what would it take, right, for somebody like this to get somebody like this? But I mean, you got to think also that some of those conversations are real short because there are just some organizations that aren't going to have what it's going to take to get either
and
player.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, there's like some of those teams that don't have a very good farm system that are probably in the bottom 15. Probably
they don't have enough
already marked off the list.
Yeah, they don't have enough, and they know it. So
yeah, and then Washington has a few teams circled that there's these guys in their farm system that, given the chance of their interest, we would target.
Well, targeting, having enough, like I said it all off season because I didn't want to see this happen again where there was an arms problem. So St. Louis, the front office didn't do anywhere stopping a Matt signing and Verhagen and the other guy, I can't remember his name, but they already DFA'd him. Like they didn't do enough to protect themselves now. They did not do enough to protect the arms, the pitching staff, or the bullpen in the offseason. We know how important that is to stay protected. Sometimes life throws you a curve, and that's why you need Allstate. The Wiley Group has 2 locations in Festus and Arnold to serve you. They offer home, auto, boat, motorcycle, business, life insurance, investments, and so much more. They offer a customized approach that is unique to your situation so you, your family, and assets are properly protected. They offer great rates and savings. Give Sean and his team a call today at 636-764-6294. We all have busy lives. You can email Sean at seanwiley@allstate.com and talk to him about your coverage options. And remember, you're in good hands with Allstate. And a couple extra starting pitchers. I'm not sure they can help you with that. Might be able to give you a lead. Where did he go?
I don't know.
He just walks off stage.
Right. Just looking at the timing, you have to know that we're going to go to the Cubs at this point, right?
You would think.
You'd think you would know that. And ultimately, look, we're probably going to see 6 Cubs at least shipped out in the next 5 days, 4 days, right? Because it's Tuesday. So the next 4 days, we're probably looking at 6 Cubs going out the door, and Elliott is nowhere to be found.
He really is
just
gone.
like the Cubs' chances at winning the division.
He's
Although,
not back yet.
You got to give David Ross credit because
as soon as he sits back down, Pete, because you can see his screen, right?
No. Did you happen to see what David Ross did? Apparently, Dave's not happy.
Oh, he's back.
There he is. Awesome. Elliot, I'm sure you saw this. This is happening tonight. Apparently, David
real nice.
Not particularly happy.
Oh my God.
That happened tonight.
Whoa!
What
was he upset about?
Being the manager of the Chicago Cubs.
Well, we knew that was going to happen. You take over a team that has Chris Bryant, Kyle Schwarber, Javi Baez, Wilson Contreras, and the core of the championship team that he was a part of. All buddies. It's a family there, and you just knew that. Yeah, you're going to be smiling walking in the clubhouse. You get to take this team over, who still has a lot of potential, still has a lot of big names in the roster. Just to watch it all, like just grains of sand through your fingers. There they all go. Everybody got a Cub last year, and they're not done yet.
His record is so bad that he's not going to be over 500 for like another 2 years at least.
Are they going to keep him through all this rebuild and everything? Do you think?
I think so.
Oh, God. Yeah. Because I think they feel like 2020 wasn't an adequate evaluation, and last year they sold off.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this year,
bigger question.
He knew what he was facing coming into this.
Well, and the bigger question is too: is he going to want to? Is he going to want to stay?
Right.
That's the bigger question, right? Like, what if?
And are there other teams that are going to be like, hey, we saw what you did with what you had. We feel like you could be a great asset to whatever team. We've got, we've put together the pieces. We feel like you could be the guy to bring us home. But
because as manager, you got to figure that as manager of the Cubs, you're waiting at least 3 years.
Yeah, that's probably best case.
Best case scenario, 3 years.
You've got, but
you're a legit contender.
If he's seeing these exciting pieces in the way that they're performing down in the minor leagues, and I mean,
is he becoming a Cardinals fan? Because that's what they do.
Could next year be like the 2015 Cubs?
No,
unlikely. But maybe in the second half of the year they could put something together.
Yeah, unlikely.
Your
Elliot,
most
because
likely
I think,
window is to start that in 2024.
I think the ownership is in a different position now than it was when it was going through the first rebuild. Right? They were willing. They were willing to. Yes, they had cost controlled young talent coming up. But they were also at that point in time, pre-renovation, they were willing to open up the checkbooks a little bit and bring in the veterans like Lester and pay a little bit more money for. Oh Christ, I forgot his name already. He has a terrible wife and he jacks his bat off. What was his name?
Oh,
Ben Zobrist. Wow.
Ben Zobrist.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I mean, but they're willing. They were willing at one point in time to bring in some help too. And are they going to be in the same spot? And I know a lot is potentially a lot. I can't say a lot's come off the payroll, but there's a lot they didn't have to put onto the payroll by shipping some of that talent away. So maybe they are.
That payroll's not very big.
Well, and also remember, here's the other thing, Ron. They had a lot more leeway with the fans back then than they do now.
Yeah, we talked about that not too long ago, Pete. But expectations are different now. Then you gave them a blueprint. You said, "Bear with us," and I think I think most reasonable Cub fans probably were.
Well, this time they lied and they said it's not a rebuild, but it's a fucking rebuild.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, you don't. They're trying to polish a turd, and it's still a turd.
Yep. The one difference I think is that this time around, I don't think that they're tanking. I just think that they were rolling the dice, and it came up snake eyes.
Yeah, they were trying to get the same thing out of Frank Schwindel and Patrick Wisdom, hoping that those guys would help carry a team of younger players, and it's kind of backfired. I mean, Wisdom is Wisdom, but Frank is not having that same type of season that he had the second half of last year.
So what you're saying, Pete, is that basically they hit on 17 and they should have held.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, but what we're seeing though is an elite player emerge in Nico Horner.
Yeah. And seeing Christopher Morel be able to maintain his and
adjust. Yeah. When he struggled, he's adjusted, and it's been a normal amount of time in between when the league adjusts to him and then he adjusts back. So which is super exciting to see because they brought him up from AA.
Right.
He wasn't even at Iowa, which has been just super cool.
Well, all of this is boring as shit. Who's going to be the first Cub to get dealt?
It's probably going to be Robertson.
Ian Happ.
Happ? We got one for Happ, one for Robertson.
I think it's Happ.
Yeah,
I think it's Robertson. I think that there are enough teams that need help in the bullpen, and there's not the overlap with the Robinson market that there is with the Soto market. Right? While it's not a huge factor, there is some overlap in trying to deal Happ and in trying to deal Contreras with who may be in on Soto. Like if the Cardinals are working to get a Soto trade, that doesn't affect the Cubs.
No.
But every day that the trade isn't consummated is another day that the Cubs are not talking to the Padres or are being held off on the Padres. And we know that the Padres are probably in.
Yeah, you're right. It probably bottlenecks some avenues like teams like that, Pete. But somebody like Toronto, who may have been hesitant to bring in like an Andrew Benintendi just because of vaccine status and all that. Hap isn't going to run into that issue, so he could be a target for Toronto too. So I think there's still some. Yep. There's still probably plenty of. My money is probably on Hap. I get your point, Pete. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the first Cub to exit. It looks like there might, I don't know, I guess a little more limited list for teams looking for catching help probably on the Contreras front. But the Houston's one of them, which has been in the rumor that, they could be suitors.
I think it depends on how you're planning to use Contreras. Are you going to use him as catcher or are you going to use him as a DH?
Yeah.
And
there has been a lot of talk.
Pitch. That's got to be the Cubs pitch.
Yeah.
Is this guy is a game-changing hitter from the catcher position. But he's a good hitter as a DH as well, and you don't have to worry about the potential liabilities of adjusting him to your pitching staff in the midst of a pennant race. You just slot him in as your DH and play him a couple times a week at catcher, especially if you have somebody on the staff that he's familiar with from having worked with them previously.
Well, so far it's been a couple boring trades that have happened. I just looked at the one you were mentioning, Pete. I don't even know who this is. Deal, is that his name for Cincinnati?
He's been at AAA.
Okay.
And Tyler Naquin, which is nobody.
Yeah,
so,
pretty much.
No, nothing big. I mean, Benintendi, that was a big deal, but I think that was pretty much expected that he was going to go to the Yankees.
Bigger deal for the Yankees than it would be for just about anybody else.
Yeah.
So. Okay. Well,
because it's the Yankees.
I don't know if I can count on anything but snooze fest really for the deadline this year. I don't.
It's going to be snooze fest until Monday. Honestly, I feel like
I'd say just on a selfish Cardinals fan level, it's going to be it's going to be a snoozer.
I mean, I think the teams have their eye on certain guys, and I don't think it's really, in the grand scheme of things, has it really mattered how long these guys wait, whether it's the beginning of the trade deadline or the end of the trade deadline, they end up trading for the same guy anyways. I mean, I kind of feel like it is. They have certain needs, and there's only certain players out there that are willing to be traded, and that the teams are willing to trade.
Well, but where it matters, whether it's the beginning of the trade season or the end, is how much pressure is created and how much of a market is created, right? Do you get that one extra prospect, or do you get a slightly better prospect because you were able to play the Cardinals off against the Padres and you're able to extract more in order to trade?
Right. Or if a team comes swoops in and grabs a guy to block another team, that causes them to go out and say, well, shit, now we got to go get somebody else. And now we probably got to give up more to get this guy.
Right. We have to remember, it's early. We haven't even heard of mystery team being involved. And that they get involved. They always get involved late.
Seattle.
Yeah, they're one of them. Yeah, they're one of them. They're annoying too.
Get ready for mystery team.
Yeah, Seattle's annoying too. I don't know why they try to get involved with baseball and success in baseball. Don't
do it on purpose.
Just be your third place Western Division team. Stop meddling in the excitement. You don't belong here.
Speaking of third place teams, Cubs are back in third.
Are they really?
Yes, they are. Shit. They're a half game above the Pirates. Hey, 11 games out of the wild card. They're
right in it. Maybe they're buyers.
In it.
Maybe they're buyers.
Maybe they're buyers 17 games under 500.
Yeah. They're going to trade for Ohtani and for Soto.
And Soto.
They're going to wipe out the entire minor league system. And they're going to trade Morel. They're going to trade Morel, Hap, Contreras, Robertson, all those guys. They're all getting shipped out early. Actually, I did throw this out there. What if that is? I threw it out in our chat. Obviously, I didn't mention it before, but it could happen that the Cubs use their assets in order to try and leverage them and flip them so that they can get Soto. There is the possibility.
Well, I saw that too. You trade for prospects with Robertson, Happ, and Contreras, and probably Wade Miley. And then you take all those assets that you get from those trades and you get Juan Soto.
Yeah, well, the clock's ticking. They'd have to work at lightning speed, right? So we'll see. I mean, they'd have to get those guys in, get their medical evaluation, and hey, by the way, don't pack your shit yet, or at least don't get don't get
that tattoo.
Yeah, the travel secretary will call you, but you're likely not coming to Chicago.
That's right. Traveling secretary for the Washington Nationals is going to be in touch with you on Tuesday.
Yeah, soon. We're working out a big deal, right?
Just trust us.
Yeah.
And, probably the best way to wrap this all up, Mason McGuire is a Cub.
Yes, I did see that. But, yeah, the other name I think that, stood out in the draft was Jackson Holiday. I remember talking to Matt Holiday I think it was a little over 2 years ago when I had him on the other show I did, talking about watching his 16-year-old at the time. He was in Georgia at a tournament because baseball had started back up. It was in 2020, right? So it started loosening a few things up on the sports front there. But I remember him talking about watching his son there, and I think he said he was 16 at the time. And I asked him, how's your son compared to you? As far as physical build, I'm like, does he think he can take dad yet? Matt Holiday's like a tree trunk, guys. I mean, you know how big that dude is. Easily forearm bigger than my thigh. But he said he wasn't built the same as far as thickness or anything, but athleticism was all there. So it's just kind of interesting that, he goes first in the draft as an Oriole, and seeing Matt Holiday in an Orioles hat, which I saw a picture of it on Twitter, was just odd enough to see him in a Yankees hat. For that brief period of time, but man, just still weird to see him in a Baltimore hat. I'm sure. I don't know if Elle caught that.
The Orioles,
I don't know if Elle saw that picture, but I'm sure she had possibly a physical reaction to that. So
yeah.
I
tell you what, they have so surprised me
that they've actually pulled it together.
Weeks.
Yeah, they've actually got their shit together and pulled it. Yeah, I am too.
It is nuts.
One of those you're perpetually going to fuck this up, aren't you? That's
right.
The Angels have taken their place in my mind, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
I mean,
I feel like the Angels are they try to make all these slick moves and do whatever they can to put together a decent team to make a playoff run, and then they just trip over their own fucking shoestrings.
Well, in that Southern California market, they're like Eric Trump of the Trump kids, right? The one that what do you do? And you don't really, what the hell do you do? I don't know. Yeah, the dumbass standing there in the background, right?
As long as you stay silent, you'll be okay. As soon as you open up your mouth, you're a fucking idiot.
And that's as political as we're going to get tonight.
Realistically, theoretically, the AL East could send 4 teams to the playoffs.
Yeah.
There's a distinct possibility it could happen.
Wouldn't that be something? The AL East.
Right? And what if one of the 4 teams is the Orioles?
Oh my God.
We got to cheer for them.
What if the Red Sox miss and the Orioles make it into the playoffs?
We'd have to root for them. That would have to be that would have to be the de facto American League team we're collectively rooting for, though, right?
Hey,
the one you didn't expect.
How about this? Orioles make the playoffs, I will buy a hat.
It's pretty
you
daring.
Heard it here, folks.
I'll buy us all an Oriole hat.
I want the Mike Boddicker 1980 version.
All right, you send it to me.
I want the Earl Weaver. Yeah, I want the Earl Weaver version.
Yep.
Probably the same one you're talking about, Pete.
It is.
Okay. One more thing. So this is a deadline that's probably going to suck. You know what else sucks, guys? Buying that car. Buying that damn car. Got a friend who's trying to do it right now. They sold the car that she wanted, and she wasn't able to get it at the Jeep dealership, so now she's hunting around all of Charlotte trying to find one. But buying cars sucks, but it doesn't have to be. 5th Street Motors, located in Pacific, Missouri, will help you find the vehicle you need no matter what brand. 5th Street Motors believes in giving you the best price on a pre-owned vehicle that fits your budget. Give Brandon or Don a call today at 573-259-1306 and tell them Gateway City Sports, scratch that, tell them Team Rivals Podcast and Talking Sports on the Bleachers with Don Glenn sent you.
There you go.
Even though we got the big logo up there on screen.
That's okay.
I'm about to replace that with Don's show logo. Come on, guys, get it together. Start putting some stuff out.
Oh, there'll be a flood of stuff next week. You got to think, right?
It depends on what the Cardinals do. If they do what they typically do, don't count on it.
No.
All right, man.
I think that's it.
Been fun.
I was expecting us to be able to talk more, but I guess it's going to have to wait until next week.
It's going to well, yeah, next week. I might be questionable for next week. Might be
we can talk about how Juan Soto didn't go to the Cardinals and instead went.
We'd have to do that. When's the deadline? Tuesday?
Yeah.
Tuesday.
We might have to just do it Tuesday
or there's the mystery team that comes in there.
Yep.
Or mystery tream or whatever that word was.
Or mystery tream. Yep.
Yeah. I stumbled over my words a little bit there.
Why is that?
Right.
Why is that?
You're right.
How many of those have you
I don't know. 4?
4? That's not bad.
Yeah, that's it.
Lightweight.
Yeah.
All right.
All I had was a salad for lunch.
Oh, here we go. Yep.
Here we go.
Excuses.
All right, Pete. Let's go.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to comment and subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your friends to do the same. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts, as well as Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. Be sure to check out the other Gateway City Sports Network podcasts, including the Derek King Sports Show and Talking Sports in the Bleachers with Don Glenn. You can find Elliot on Twitter at
TOR_Elliot.
And you can find Ron at
TR_Ron75.
Get in touch with us at the show at teamarivalspodcast.com or on any social media channel at Team Arrivals Pod. Gentlemen, it's been magical. Maybe it'll be a little bit more exciting over the next 4 days.
Sure has. All right, everyone. Thanks for leading us out, Pete. We will be talking to you at some point in time, likely next week, whether it's exciting, maybe perhaps Tuesday as Pete yawns. It could be at our normal schedule time. Hell, who knows? Or it'll just be whenever we feel like doing it again, which is kind of been our modus this year. But until then, love you all so much. Bye-bye, everyone.